Hello and welcome to this program. Japan is undergoing many social and economic changes. First among them is a rapidly declining population due to falling birth rates and aging. This two-part series looks at how the country is planning to move forward and sustain economic growth by drawing on the maximum potential of working women, senior citizens, and foreigners. These solutions could serve as examples for other advanced countries around the world that face the same social changes. In this second episode, we will look at the economic effectiveness of changes in the way senior citizens and foreigners work. We will also discover tasks for the future. Today, we have two special guests with us joining the program. First is economist Jasper Cole. Hello, Jasper. Jasper Cole has been researching and investing in Japan since 1985 and works as chief economist. And Nicholas Bennett. He is an investment banker and an expert on corporate governance. He has lived here for 32 years in Japan. So, Jasper and Nicholas, you've been living in Japan for over 30 years, or 32 years in your case. And what is your look on how Japanese citizens, elderly citizens, work?
Look, I mean, the fact is that, elderly citizens, people over 65 is growing every year by about 500,000 people. So the first comment is there's actually a lot of them. And, because everybody's healthy, the food here is very, very good. People generally are very healthy and mentally fit and strong. Why do you have to retire when you're 65? This is an underutilized asset.
And you, Nicholas?
Well, I think they're very active. I'm not sure how you can make these comparisons internationally, but all I know is you go to the sports club and there's usually a guy who looks, or I think is older than me. I'm 60, so I'm almost one of them. But he's jogging faster than me or he's swimming faster than me. There are those people who stay at home and have hobbies and go to the sports club. But there are a lot of people who just continue wanting to do something productive.
Mm-hmm. Well, statistics show that 65.9% of retirees in Japan still want to work after retirement age of 65 because they're healthy and active, as you mentioned, but only 21.7% of them can find jobs. It seems like a dilemma that they have that motivation and energy to work but can't find employment. But the way senior citizens work is actually changing. First up, we would like to introduce a man who provides many opportunities for seniors. He started a company that is run by seniors as well as aimed at seniors.
Kazutoshi Tomizawa is 68 years old. At 65, he started his own business.
My business is a staffing agency. We provide experienced senior accountants to companies which are in need of accounting employees. We contribute to society by providing experienced staff to companies, as well as creating employment for senior citizens.
Mr. Tomizawa started working for a bank when he was 18. At that time, he worked during the day and attended classes at night as a university student. After 33 years, he retired from the bank at age 51. In following years, he continued to provide accounting and finance support to CEOs of various companies. However, when he reached 65 years old, he could no longer find employment opportunities.
People in their 60s are still very energetic, good workers. But once they retire, most companies won't accept employment applications from them.
So, Mr. Tomizawa decided to start a staffing agency specializing in fields of accounting and finance. The company's range of registrants is between 55 and 70 years old. All of them are highly skilled through their experience as managers in charge of accounting and finance at banks and large corporations. The company offers an innovative system to support the employment of senior citizens. Under the system, highly skilled seniors are matched with small and medium-sized companies seeking applicants with accounting and finance skills. Mr. Tomizawa makes a fine point of valuing not only the administrative skills of his staff, but also whether they can communicate well with the presidents and staff of the companies that hire them. Mr. Tomizawa takes good care of the contracted companies where his registered workers are assigned.
I totally rely on him. He is so helpful. I never expected to find such an excellent accountant for a small company like mine.
Mr. Kobayashi is sitting in for a worker on maternity leave.
It's fun working here. Everybody is so nice to me. I really appreciate that they take good care of such an old man. It's worthwhile to work for any company that needs my skills. Working here makes me feel very good.
Mr. Kobayashi has become indispensable to the company, not just for his excellent accounting skills, but because younger workers turn to him for consultation when they have problems.
I only expected him to input numbers on computers. But he started giving great advice. Like this company spends too much on social expenses. Or that we could spend more on welfare. Or that we had better push sales activities due to low total sales. I was amazed by how well he does his job.
Small and medium-sized companies have great difficulties in hiring young and talented human resources. For those companies, the experiences and immediately adaptable skills of senior citizens become great help to support management. There is certainly a need for senior citizens with great skills.
I believe senior citizens want to contribute to society. There must be many senior citizens who want to work and use their experience and skills. So I want to see them succeed in companies as much as possible.
What struck me the most was Mr. Kobayashi, who was sent to this small company by Mr. Tomizawa's company, and how happy he seemed to be working and to be useful for the company. Do you think, Jasper, this is one way to counter the dwindling workforce of Japan?
No, look, I mean, absolutely. Obviously there is a resource, right, that is available that can be very, very productive. There's also, the other aspect, which is that, these people have meaning to their life. They are professionals. Japan has a culture, the shokunin bunka, the culture of craftsmanship and professionalism and attention to detail. And if you've got, 20, 30, 40 years of experience, especially in something like accounting, right? Bringing that to the table for younger companies, for older companies, it doesn't matter. You have a lot to actually add. And at the same time, you're happier. Human beings want to be productive, want to be engaged, and mobilizing and allowing, and this is the real issue, allowing senior citizens in Japan, if they want to be engaged in society, that's one way to actually boost the Japanese economy.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Nicholas?
And I think this is the wave of the future. People want to be useful in this society. We don't have quite as much of a consuming culture and not as much of a gap in income structure or wealth structure in Japan. So it is helpful to have a little bit of extra income, and particularly when you don't know how long you're going to be living. You might live to be 95 years old at the rate things are going, 100 years old. It's inevitable that people want to be useful and also might need a little income, would want a job. And the only issue is, does the labor market, our practices evolving so as to give them that job? And it's happening in the regions or in smaller companies or in some major companies, have a new practice that people agree to be hired a certain way. There's a lot that people can do. This is a cultural change is in the process of happening.
And this is one of the key issues, because in a lot of societies, particularly in North America, right, the focus is all on the young, on the youth, right? Disruptive innovation. Look, this is an aging society, and Japan takes care of its aging society, not just by providing proper health care, providing proper pensions, but also providing opportunity. If you want to work, if you want to re-engage in society on a for-profit basis, you should be allowed to do that.
I think the next person that we'll talk about actually signifies a cultural change that's taking place. The next person we present is another man who started a venture business by applying his accumulated experience and skills. His business involves expanding employment opportunities in the area and taking advantage of the energy of young people.
Masahiko Abe started a venture company when he was 60 years old. The company's primary business is manufacturing and selling garbage bags and packages using nanovesicle capsules, which have the characteristic of reducing CO2 emissions when burned. Other than that, his company undertakes 5 businesses such as biotechnology and analysis. The company is located at Tokyo University of Science. Mr. Abe is a professor at the university, and the company is a university-launched venture enterprise.
I graduated from the Science and Engineering Department, where we were challenged to come up with things that are useful to society. I myself was excited at the thought of developing an idea from academic research to an invention that's out in the world. Now I want to show young people that scientific research can lead to a business. And I want to make universities incubators of student entrepreneurs.
In fact, many of his employees are researchers and PhD holders in various fields such as science, engineering, and IT.
It's like, yes, we will manufacture products by combining knowledge and wisdom of various areas of science, such as biology and chemistry. So it's a very interesting company. I think even research undertaken at a university should eventually result in a social contribution. So I respect the way Dr. Abe expends his full vitality on his experiments. I'd like to develop my own style by following in his footsteps.
A factory in Fukushima Prefecture is manufacturing the products, and there are plans underway for expansion of the factory. This company also contributes to the creation of employment in rural areas.
If you ask me if I'm doing this as a job, I guess I'd say no. If you ask me if I'm doing it because it's interesting, yes, I'm interested in this. Now I'm working on polymer filler and biomass power generation. I'm also working on IT. I'm thinking of creating dedicated companies specialized in each field, while establishing a holding company to oversee them. If some of the business fields don't become mainstream in the near future, we'll have to go on developing new things.
Each researcher submits their own ideas. Then they cooperate to carry out research and development. At nearly 70 years old, Dr. Abe continues to search for new businesses in collaboration with different researchers in different fields.
It's very interesting because Mr. Abe, who started his venture business, said that he's doing it not just because it's his job, but it's fun. I think that should be the way to drive Japan's innovation.
No, absolutely. This is a passion venture. I mean, and that's actually real entrepreneurship. I mean, even if you look at large famous companies like Apple in the United States, I mean, look at Steve Jobs. I mean, talk about some passionate guy. He didn't really do it for the money. And here in Japan, it's very interesting, you know, that you've got somebody who's had a very successful career, right, then goes into retirement and says, Yosh, actually what I really want to do is this. And they create, you know, not just workplaces. They don't just create employment, but they also create enthusiasm and role models for other people to actually follow. You don't just have to be a salaryman. You can actually be passionate about it, follow your passion, and create an enterprise that actually makes money and creates jobs.
So, you know, you reach a stage in your life where your happiness and your activities is due to things other than just making money. You want to make a contribution or an impact, and that's what he's doing. I think it's wonderful that he's giving students and colleges a sort of a combination of business savvy with dreams. He's teaching the students that there is something other to life than just being a salaryman, that you can pursue your dreams and your ambitions, and that's a wonderful thing to do.
It's as if the typical Japanese salaryman who's been supporting Japanese economy after the war and supported the Japanese economy's bubble and resurrection after the bubble burst is now finally feeling free, and that they can now finally become entrepreneurs. It's really interesting.
No, and
isn't it neat?
The key issue is, again, you know, breaking free. Right? You know, again, you've had a very successful career, right? What do you do now? Follow your passion. And whether that's in economic terms, you know, you actually create a venture that is for profit, or it can even be on a not-for-profit basis. I mean, people are very passionate about helping, you know, for example, after the disaster that we had in Fukushima, right? You know, people turn passionate about that. So, you know, again, adapting the rules and regulations that, hey, it's okay, even though you're no longer in your 20s or in your 30s, I, the entrepreneur, I can get together with somebody who finances my venture actually going forward. And from that perspective, again, the government can actually lend an active hand for support.
Well, regarding senior entrepreneurs, the Lifelong Activity Entrepreneur Support Subsidy was actually created on April 1st in 2016. And it seems the nation stands behind a policy of employing senior citizens. In addition, the government is proceeding with policies to support senior citizens' activities, such as supporting employment of seniors over age 65 by introducing them to business people who want to apply their abilities by integrative administration of career information and abilities of citizens aged around 65. So how do you think about these kind of measures that government is taking?
I think it's good as a leading, you know, you have to set up, when you're changing cultural habits or business habits, you have to set up some kind of example of the direction we're going. Japan has historically as the government here has been historically quite good at sort of setting down a marker of where we're trying to go. This is the signpost for where the vision of the future is. And then people tend to follow that. That's how the culture works. So by setting up policies like that, they're really messaging to society that this is the way we should be heading.
There's a bit of a stigma that you have in modern societies. Oh, just because you're old, you cannot be creative. Only the young can be creative. The young have all the fun. No, the old have all the fun and can be incredibly creative. By the way, the older I get every day, the more I feel that way.
Right.
Good for you. Okay, we looked at changes in the ways Japan's women and senior citizens work, as well as relevant economic policies. Now we will introduce attempts to apply the power of foreigners. You guys are foreigners, who are indispensable for Japan's further global economic growth. Please watch this.
Nomura Securities is developing a presence around the world. John Gorman came from the United States to work in Japan. He is head of non-yen rates trading.
My wife and I love Japan. We think that the culture is fantastic. We love living here. We think it's very clean, very safe. We think the Japanese people are very nice and always lending a hand and helping us if we have any trouble.
Mr. Gorman came to Japan 2 years ago under the points-based system for highly skilled professionals introduced by the government in 2012. The system helps bring foreigners with highly specialized abilities and qualifications to work in Japan. Qualified foreigners can easily work in Japan and receive preferential treatment such as permanent visa acquisition, permission to start businesses, and house care support. This is Mr. Gorman's second assignment in Japan. What difference can be seen now with this new system in place?
Well, so the point-based system, in my opinion, is much better than the other visa that I used. The reason I like the point-based system visa more is that this time around, my wife and I had a child, and we had a helper with the child, and that was one of the big things we wanted, was when we moved back up to Tokyo to be able to bring our domestic help. And the point-based system visa allowed us to do that. We wouldn't have been able to do it without that visa.
The points-based system for highly skilled professionals gives a boost to companies which are developing global business and makes it easier for them to secure highly skilled and reliable foreign employees.
Since our company is expanding globally, we need to cope with many different needs, so we need to diversify our human resources. As our range of business and customer base expands, we have a need for people with different perspectives. Foreign workers have different experiences. I believe that new and flexible mindsets due to different experiences can stimulate not only the employees working in the same department, but also workers in other departments who have relationships with those foreigners.
For businesses to move forward with diversity management, highly skilled professionals are the keystone to management strategies. We expect top-class human resources to stimulate Japan's economy.
The top-class human resource points system employs people from overseas with top-class knowledge and skills like Mr. Gorman and uses them as labor power to support Japan's economy. They can provide powerful support for Japan in various fields. So taking a look at Mr. Gorman's coverage, what did you two think about it?
There's enormous pressure on Japan, because the labor pool is shrinking, the number of high school and university graduates is shrinking, and companies need human resources, need humans, right, as still the single most important productive asset. And so Japan faces a very clear challenge.
How about you, Nicholas?
Well, it's driven by the fact, to extend that, it's driven by the fact that companies need the staff. They're globalizing, or they want to globalize more. They need foreigners in their managerial hierarchy. Studies show that if 50% of your sales are abroad, then 25% of your senior executives and board members should be foreigners. And they know they have to move in that direction in order to retain competitiveness. So the demand is there on the part of companies, and what the government is doing is making it much, much easier than it used to be. I wish it had been that easy when I first applied for a visa, for foreigners to get a visa quickly and conveniently for their family, so you can bring on a home helper that you've already hired in Hong Kong or Singapore, as he did, and this kind of thing. And they're even aiming towards reducing the time it takes to get a permanent residence visa from 5 years to 1 year, depending on if you meet certain conditions, which would be one of the fastest times, periods for duration for getting a permanent resident visa in the world. And that's a real statement of the commitment of the government to the fact that we need more diversity, more foreigners, and more professionals and high, powered researchers and technicians in the economy. And they're starting to grow. I mean, the numbers of these people are growing, albeit from a low base, but growing much, much faster than you would have expected 3 or 4 years ago.
In 2013, the conditions of the top-class human resource points system were relaxed, and the number of qualifiers has steadily increased. Now the number is about 6,000.
After the points-based system for highly skilled professionals was introduced in 2012, the number of approved cases has rapidly increased. The government aims at a total of 10,000 approved cases by 2020.
These two programs have explored how women, senior citizens, and foreigners work in Japan and what kind of economic policies apply. So, Nicholas, Jasper, what are your thoughts about these measures taken by the government and the changes taking place in Japan?
What is exciting is that business as usual is not an option anymore. And that has been clearly recognized by the government, and it is leading the charge to raise diversity. A male-dominated society is now opening up for greater participation and empowerment for females, as well as for the global workforce for foreigners. This is very, very exciting. The key challenge going forward is individual companies actually embracing that change. It's top-down leadership, but it does need to be filled up from the grassroots, from the bottom up as well.
You sound more excited than ever, actually.
I am very excited about Japan, and I think that Japan stands at the beginning of a new golden age of diversity, productivity growth, and entrepreneurship.
Do you agree with them, Nicholas?
I think, however, a lot of the issues we're dealing with here are not unique to Japan. The need for societies, for developed, mature economies to cope with aging societies, that's just Japan happens to be running into that in an extreme fashion soonest. But what's going to happen next in almost every other developed economy, Japan is coming up with these very fascinating or essential issues that we all have to encounter throughout the world. And for have people to be satisfied with their life, they need some kind of motivation to be doing what they want. And if that is an activity, that helps the economy and helps them as well. So we're not saying, and the government here is not saying that all old people have to work or anything like that, but it is saying that those who want to, so that the economy as a whole can be more productive than it has been in a more rigid society. And this whole issue of what is the meaning of and actual role of work in society is being encountered full blast in debates or discussions and articles in Japan now in a way that wasn't thinkable, wasn't conceivable even 5 or 10 years ago. This is fascinating.
So what do you think about Japan after watching these two programs? And thank you very much, Jasper and Nicholas, for joining our program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And thank you very much to those at home for watching this program as well. We sincerely hope that you enjoyed this program. We hope you continue to take an interest in Japan as the country undergoes this dynamic change.